Hi everyone, welcome to Riding Tiger once again, and we have crossed 150 plus interviews from across the world. Whenever I travel a particular country, I usually interview amazing people so that they can share their story to the world. And those people don't need a lot of introduction, I'm sure about it. Now, what is Riding Tiger is all about? Riding Tiger is actually a concept wherein I say that entrepreneurship is riding a tiger. When I started my entrepreneurial life, I was 17, completely passed out of my school and then joined the college. Had no clue how to start the venture and how to move on in the business world. But yeah, it's been 25 years plus 9 months. I have been running several different business, including managing the investment world as well as creating the ecosystem. Now, when you start your business, it's all about adopting a small cup. You feed that with milk, and then eventually when it is growing, you have an intention that you will be riding on the top of it. But now it's big. Now it doesn't need milk, it needs meat, and that's a raw meat. And that raw meat for business is money. And to earn money, you need to go for a risk-taking appetite, and then you need to recruit a lot of different kind of people so that your tiger, your business, can run properly. You can't overfeed it, you can't underfeed it. If it is hungry, it's going to kill you. If it is overfeeding itself, it is becoming slow. So it's an art and science all together, how you are riding it. And when I'm talking about that, I have Bryan with me. Bryan is logging from Canada, and he is running an amazing business on metaverse and creating avatars and characters so that things can be materialized in the deep tech world better than anything. Even though we are learning a lot about deepfake, we are learning a lot about cybersecurity, we are learning a lot of things about creating avatars, and including that utilizing mixed reality, virtual reality, and augmented reality. But this is close to my heart. And Bryan agreed to say that, hey, it's okay. We are going to do that impromptu. Whatever comes from my heart, I'm going to blast it. So Bryan, floor is yours. If you can kindly introduce yourself, talk a little bit about what you do, what is the exact solution, and enlighten us with your knowledge, please.
Sure. So thanks for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to appear. Always anxious to share the Anime Village story. And again, my name is Bryan Soroka. I'm the CLO, Chief Lore Officer for Anime Village. So essentially, I take care of all the creative, or at least to this point. So the characters, the worlds, all the narratives that we're developing come from up here, this twisted little mind of mine. But just to give you a little background on who we are, whenever someone asks me who Anime Village is, I always tell them we're storytellers, because that's essentially who we are. While we have a myriad of different products and services that we're offering and building, everything is based on the stories that we develop. And this comes in the form of the unique proprietary process that we've developed called REPS. And what REPS stands for is read, explore, play, and stream. And what's really cool about this process is, one, it's unique, it's never been done before, but also it's playing multiple roles. So at once, it's a brand building exercise. And then on the other hand, you also have a product launch sequence. And I'll get into more details of that right now. So like I said, REPS begins with the R, which is the read process. That comes in the form of the original manga that we're developing. So when we started this venture about 18 months ago, my partner and I, Gary, we're both huge anime manga fans. We've been reading, we've been watching since we were knee-high to a grasshopper. So we wanted to create an experience that is new, but also engaging, and then also allows people to engage how they see fit. And what I mean by that is all these different products that we're offering. So if you're just into reading manga, then you're covered. If you're more of a gamer, then you're covered. If you're into the Web3 space, you're covered as well. What we do know of fans is they can be quite fickle. So creating these customized, tailored experiences is quite important. But to run through the reps process, like I said, we start at the R stage, which is read, which comes in the form of our manga. We're focusing on the action genre first, and that is a shonen title, which is called Adamanto. We've released the first chapter a couple of months ago, And the first volume, which is a 264-page compendium, is being worked on right now. And I'm very, very excited to announce that the illustrator, artist, his name is Oscar Jimenez. If you're a comic book geek, that name will ring familiar because Oscar's claim to fame is he's worked on The Flash, Aquaman, JLA, Justice League, Wolverine, Contest of Champions 2, that sort of thing. I actually have a bunch of his books down in my basement. I started reading Oscar's stuff in the early to mid 90s. Like I said, I'm a comic book guy. So I'm quite familiar with his work. And Oscar and I became friends over the past couple of years. We showed him Adamanto, said we're interested in getting you to illustrate this book, and he loved the book. And he actually just sent me some more pages for the second chapter right now. So I'm eager to look at those, but I'll wait until after the podcast to check them out. So getting back to the reps process, the manga is the first step. So Adamanto is our action shonen title. The characters and the storylines from those 264 pages of volume 1 are being shifted over to the EPS phase of reps. So we've actually kind of not skipped, but we're focusing on the P stage right now, which is play. And that comes in the form of a mobile game that we're currently developing, which will be ready for, I want to say, in the next 2.5 months. We've started building in earnest. We have all the character designs and everything. So we're starting with that. And then the RPG, which obviously is a much larger endeavor, more expensive and time-consuming project. But we've completed the game map for that, all the project documents. We're starting to build, 3D environments for that. And again, all the characters, all the storylines that we launched in that manga are going to be populating those stories. And then we just rinse and repeat. So like I said, we've identified 4 key genres, the first of which is action, which we're currently building. Next up is going to be supernatural. The manga, the scripts are actually being done right now. And then we also have slice of life and adventure. So those are our 4 key genres. And then from there, there's a myriad of subgenres that you can work on. You know, there's mecha, there's horror, there's sports, superhero, list goes on and on and on. But what they all share in common is they're all going to go through that reps process.
Absolutely amazing. And for the audience, let me tell you, I started my entrepreneurial life as a comic artist, to be very honest. I used to draw comics and used to create my own storylines when I was in class 6 standard, and used to be thrown out of my school in those school days. Because in my third bench, I used to do all those kind of character building and then story writing on the spot, utilizing a black ballpoint pen. And I till death remember that. People who don't understand this word, manga is actually a Japanese anime style. If you look at that entire comic style of manga, the style is different. It's amazing with colors. The color balance, the eyes, and the face pattern, as well as the character pattern, is a little bit of different than the DC style or the Marvel style that you have seen probably.
Yeah, actually, sorry to interrupt. Most manga is actually black and white. The anime is actually the color version of that. So really, though, I mean, people ask if they're not familiar, what's manga, what's anime? Manga, Japanese comics; anime, Japanese animated series.
Yeah.
Of course, the distinctions go beyond that. The way the stories are crafted, the way people develop the characters, and that's why anime and manga, those industries are literally exploding. They just keep growing and growing and growing, actually overtaking sales for Western books in North America, which I never thought I'd see. But people are really, really starving for great content. And that's what makes Anime Village unique, is that, like I said, it's a self-perpetuating machine of storytelling. 264 pages of manga equates to over 40 levels of gameplay. So we don't have to rethink, we don't have to redevelop, we don't have to sit back and take 18 months to create the story for the game. It's already been written. Because if you've ever written for manga, like scripts for manga, for anime, for games, they're actually quite similar. Certain modifications have to be made, but that's another great thing about our business model, is that everything has already been developed, planned out, the blueprints are already there. Now we just get to building. So instead of taking 18 months, 2 years to develop and build, we can cut that in half, sometimes even less.
True. And for everyone, like I know that my audience is actually coming from the business world. Well, I was struggling in India to explain people what exactly I am trying to build in 98. Believe me or not, Bryan, when I used to tell people that I am trying to create a game development studio and I'm taking those characters from old Sanskrit and Pali, from our old Purana, which is epic, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and a lot of different storylines, and we're going to tweak them into a superhero character, and then eventually draw a game out of it. People started laughing at me. People started, looking at me like crazy, and they say that, who are you? Are you a comic artist? Are you a game programmer? Are you a game developer? Are you an animator? So like it's a long journey, but yeah, if I look back in good old days, like when Yahoo was the chat engine and Internet Explorer was the only internet surfing tool for all of us, and the dial-up connection used to be the connection. That time I used to talk to a lot of US based people who are crazy about animation, crazy about game development. So for all the audience, you need to understand game development is an interactive process wherein you need programmers, you need artists, you need designers, you need data developers, database artists, you need data science people. So it's a combination of whole lot of a full-fledged software development industry, if you want to compare that. And if I look at the comics world, this is more on content building. It's not about only the art part. The main strength is the story. And that's the reason Bryan is saying that he's a storyteller. If the content is not strong, I mean, if both of us are going to create a great art, it's not going to hit that market. It will only become a piece of art. That's it. And that's the reason when they are building that entire village, which is an anime village that you are going to enter, and you are going to go for an interactive mode in this, is gonna be amazing. Bryan, why don't you talk a little bit about the latest development that you guys are doing? For an example, when it will be published, when it will be live in the market, and what are the features that we are going to have, please.
Sure. So the plan for the manga is we've actually been in contact with 2 publishers that are interested in releasing it like traditional in either bookstores or specialty shops, comic book stores. We're not quite sure if we want to go that route just yet, simply because we're not exactly a household name at this point. Although I should say with the release of Chapter 1, we've had over 50,000 downloads and reads of Chapter 1 thus far. So we're obviously on the right path. And that's where being a fan really, really comes in handy, because reading all those books, watching all those shows and those movies has really educated me, speaking for myself personally, where it's like I can tell what will resonate both from an artistic side and a commercial side. So for instance, Adamanto, which is our action title, which is the manga that we're currently working on, and then Adamanto Bodo, which is the RPG, and then the mobile, which is going to come before it. I took, I want to say, just about a year to research that book. It takes place in 12th century Japan. So I'm a huge fan of historical fiction. So the beats that are actually true, the real characters that we bring in, we wanted to make sure that their histories and their engagements were authentic when they do engage with the fictional characters that we're introducing into it. So the plan for Adamanto is we're going to launch it online with several online readers. We have Voice Me, we have Global Comics, and there's another couple that'll be available. And then the plans are, once we've actually completed that, we're going to publish it with one of those publishers. One is one of the biggest in the UK. Another one is the 3rd largest in the United States. But again, we just don't want to put it out there for the sake of putting it out there, because we are really value driven. Whatever product that we want to create, we want to make sure that it delivers value not only to the fans, but also to our investors, right? So we take very calculated, thoughtful steps when it comes to product launch. If somebody comes to us and says, no, we want to publish your book, and it's like, okay, that's great, but let's take a step back and see what value it is to you, what value it is to us, and what value it is to our fans and our investors. So that's the manga side of things. As I mentioned before, the mobile game is under works. We are going to have that ready in the next 2 to 3 months. You never can put a definite timeline on these things, as you probably know, because certain things happen, you run into a roadblock, whatever the case may be. But as I mentioned before, since we've planned this all out, we don't have to worry about thinking about how we're going to build this. The blueprint is already there. Now we just have to put, kind of like a face to the name as such. And then the same thing with the RPG, because the scripting is all done. And if you are familiar with video game scripting, you'll know it's one of the most daunting, complicated, sophisticated modes of script writing.
Yep.
We've already done it. We already have it in the form of the manga. And like I said, that's not to say that we just take the manga script and then we transpose it into a video game. No, but we've got about 80% of the work already done. Now we just have to retrofit it into that video game script. So the plan is for the RPG, the beta, to be ready for Q2, Q3, 2024. So that's kind of like the sequence that we're building. So that takes us into Adamanto will have been in the market for about, I want to say 18 months at that point. So we are running several programs, social programs, marketing programs to kind of build awareness for it. And you mentioned India before. India is actually one of the fastest growing markets for anime and manga, which is really, really cool. And we're running some programs in India with some influencers and some other people to start building the Adamanto brand. And we're well on our way to doing that, which is really, really cool.
That's absolutely amazing. I mean, I can see that from our live stream, people actually started interacting. Definitely you can ask questions, but that will be in the chat. This is more of like me and Bryan, we are talking with each other. Well, people who don't understand game development technology as a technology, well, when you download a game from probably Google Play Store for free, that's a freemium model people are using. That doesn't mean that game don't have any kind of cost. It's a huge cost. In fact, if you look at game development industry as an industry, it is, if you combine movie industry and music industry both together, it is much more bigger than that. And if I combine development with animation, it's huge. And if we combine animation, game development, and comic, man, it's one of the biggest industry that you can think of. You can think of, I mean, billions of fans who are actually watching these kind of content and they are playing it.
Especially when you attach anime and manga to it, right? Because, and the one thing is, we want to make sure, I mentioned this word before, authentic. We don't want to seem like we're jumping on a bandwagon, right? Because there have been, I've seen a lot of books out there that I call them comic books in manga clothing, right? There are differences between manga and Western comic books. I always say that if you're writing a Western comic book, it's pretty much 100% plot driven. Every panel, every word of dialogue, every caption is meant to move the plot forward, as opposed to manga, which is much more character-centric, character-driven. The stories are meant to build on the character, to establish a relationship between the reader and the character. That's why manga fans are so rabid. That's why they love the characters so much, right? You can have a chapter of a manga that is a conversation between two people at a coffee shop, or it's, a drawn out fight. You'll never find that in a Western comic book. And I love that form of storytelling because it gives you a lot more freedom, and it gives you a much more of an opportunity to explore the psychology of the characters, how they react in different situations. It's just a really cool way of storytelling. It's been a blast.
True. Totally agree. Well, Bryan, let me ask you one quick question. When you have been building this kind of storyline and you are picking those characters up, who is your target audience? If you can talk a little bit about your target audience, like their age, their occupation. It's usually universal, but still.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned, we have multiple genres that we're doing, but if we're focusing on Adamanto, which is action shonen title, you would think, I know that the primary audience is male, between the ages of 16 and 24. Then you've got a secondary market that would be 26 to maybe early mid 40s. And then you have tertiary markets, which are comprised of female audiences of all ages. So, and then you've got supernatural, slice of life, which would probably be more female centric, simply because you're dealing with more comedic, dramatic elements, also romantic storytelling, things of that nature. And slice of life is actually absolutely huge. The genre is doing really, really well. So it's great to see so many female readers and watchers, joining up. They've always been there, but not to this extent, which is really, really cool. Because again, storytelling doesn't discern between gender, doesn't discern between where you live, what your income is, whatever. It speaks to everyone, which is so very, very cool. And if you take the time to create a story that is true, that is well thought out and well planned, it will resonate with people. And we've proven it with Adamanta. Like I said, with literally no marketing behind it, 50,000 people have read that first chapter. And I guarantee you, when they see Oscar's work on this book, I saw the first 3 pages of chapter 2, like my mind was literally blown. It is absolutely unbelievable. People are going to lose their minds when they see this stuff. Because also don't forget, his artwork is going to be transposed into the games that we're developing, both the mobile and the RPG. So his character designs, his environmental designs, all of that stuff is going to be put into our game environments, which is also very, very cool.
Super. And what is your take on the generic AI when you are actually taking amazing artists to create art, whether it's a game art, whether it's a comics, whether it's a 3D model, or whether it's an environment? Are you taking help of any kind of generic AI tool, or what is your thought process? Do you feel that generic AI can probably take over in near future, those kind of content building?
Yeah. The way I view AI is it's just another tool. So when people come to me and say, well, they're going to, there's not going to be any more writers, there's not going to be any more artists, I strongly, vehemently disagree. Having used these AI tools both for visual and both for editorial, I can tell you that one, it's not anywhere near what a human brain will be able to produce, at least not yet. It might get to that point where it will be. But you can always tell there's something missing. And I always say it's kind of like it's missing a soul when you generate something in AI, especially visually, character design or whatever the case may be. Now, that's not to say AI doesn't have its place, because, I'd be a hypocrite saying that, because we're actually using AI specifically for Suki, who is our virtual guide. She's this cute little chibi owl that's going to be present in our virtual spaces, also in the games themselves. She's going to be driven by AI, because when people interact with her and they have a question or they want some direction insofar as, how to kind of create their experience, she's going to be there to answer the questions. AI is also going to come in handy for our NPC, our non-playable characters in the RPG. So when you're wandering around, you can interact with these characters and ask them a question, or they will give you answers and you'll be able to interact with them on a much deeper level. So in that sense, AI is really, really cool. AI can also be a great help to artists and help them generate backgrounds or do some of the more mundane tasks that are involved, especially when you're talking about manga. Because if you're a manga creator, it's a never-ending stream of work, right? Page after page after page. And, you got to work on the backgrounds, you got to work on the characters, you've got to work on the onomatopoeia, the lettering and all this kind of stuff. So that's where AI can definitely be a help. But for creating ideas and for creating characters and storylines and all that, no, AI is, it can be a help. But like I said, it's a tool and it can help expedite some processes. But other than that, this is where creative comes from. And it always will, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely echo Bryan, but probably in near future, we can see that a lot of AI tools will help the process, enhance the process, update that process, but that doesn't mean that there will be no room left for creators. Rather, it's a blessing to have such kind of tools, utilize that for enhancing your creativity. Not only that, it is reducing your production timeline. You can definitely use some kind of graphics which probably would take 2 to 3 working days to make for you, and you can use those AI tools to make it probably in few seconds, and then enhance it utilizing any editing software, and then
and that's where the tool part comes in, where it's like I've seen it used in Photoshop, where you have let's say the orientation of the image was landscape or it was vertical, and you had dead space on the side. Well, you can just select those dead spaces and then ask the AI to repopulate it with the environment that's already in that picture. So like you said, what would have taken days for an artist to do that work is done in a matter of seconds. So in that sense, it's great. And you can even argue that AI would help creativity because it lets you focus on the big idea and the big visuals as opposed to those smaller, more execution-based tasks that you'd have to spend all this time and effort on.
True. Well, I have been using AI tools. Definitely, I'm doing things with generic AI. Well, I shouldn't say I'm a master, but I've been doing it, I think, for last 6-7 months, probably more than that. It's amazing. If you can use it, you can actually do many different kind of stuff. If you really want to master in generic AI, there are a lot of development that is also happening. But if you look at their system at the moment, this is more like creating an entire universe where you can enter as a character. Now, for the audience, once again, RPG stands for role-playing game. There are different genres. It can be MMORPG, it can be only RPG, it can be only multiplayer RPG, it can be like different kind of RPG genres are there in the market. And definitely, I'm sure that when you combine that with the concept of metaverse, creating parallel universe, and then connect that with the real world, is going to rock like anything. Well, this is the time when we should move from all our technical and creative discussion. Rather, I'll be asking you a little bit of questions about life. Is it fine?
Yeah, hit me.
Super. Okay. My first question is, what is life for you?
Life is about creating. I mean, I've been a writer since I can remember. I started off my career as a copywriter, moved on to roles of creative director, chief creative officer. Now I'm chief lore officer at Anime Village. So really it's about, I mean, I guess I do it for a selfish reason because being a writer gives you absolute control. I mean, I write and control the fates of all the characters, all the worlds. If I can give them a good day, a bad day, whatever the case may be. So really, that's what it's all about.
What is happiness for you?
Pretty much the same answer, but it's also working with people that that are as passionate and are dedicated to what we're doing as I am. That's why when, the development team, investors, whomever that we work with, we want to make sure that it's not just a business decision for them, right? We want them to be into what we're doing because we're not doing your average, we're not making widgets, right? We're not making banking products or insurance products, or we're doing something that resonates a lot deeper. There's an emotional component to it. So we got to make sure that, when we're working with people, they feel the same way as we do, because then it doesn't become a job, right? And there you get your best product, because if you're loving what you're doing, you can feel that love.
Brilliant. So if I ask you, like, when you hear the word called blue, what is the first thing comes when you hear the word blue?
When I hear the word blue?
Yeah.
The first thing, I don't know, water? That's a weird question.
So basically, it's like if I have analyzed your mind, you are a kind of person who wants to give happiness to others. You want to create an infinite streamline of happiness, whether that is a group of investors, whether that is your coworkers, whether that is your team, whether that is your maybe would-be customers. You actually want to give positivity to the people. One last question, which I ask everybody. Imagine that you are in a park. It's a sunny day, beautiful breeze. the birds are singing, full of greenery, temperature is about 17 degrees, so you feel cozy, you know. And in that park, there is only one bench, and you have an option to sit there with somebody. This somebody can be anyone in this planet. It can be a living thing, it can be a non-living thing, it can be in your past, it can be maybe in your present time. Who that would be, Bryan? Whom would you like to sit with?
Wow. There's about a million different people that I could think of, but it would probably have to be between two people. One would be Jim Thompson, who was an author. He wrote The Getaway. He wrote After Dark, My Sweet. Just my favorite author. I read his first book when I was 8 years old, and he had a very interesting life. So I would just be sitting there and you know, just peppering him with questions, just trying to figure out, you know, what inspired him, how he came up with his ideas, what his process was. And if it was someone else, it would probably be a guy named Sam Peckinpah, who was a director. He directed some of my favorite films. He directed Straw Dogs. He directed Iron Cross. Oh, sorry, that was Stanley Kubrick. I don't know what I'm thinking. But my favorite movie Sam Peckinpah directed, which was The Wild Bunch, which is a Western from 1969. And it's just, he also had a very interesting life, and he's a very kind of bare bones, you know, gruff kind of creative, right? Like he's a hard drinking, I call them hard drinking creatives, where they're very dedicated to their craft and they don't see it as a business. They see it as an art form. And if you start treating it with disrespect, that's the last person you never want to be in front of.
Absolutely amazing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want to take a look at their project, and then I'm sure that you are waiting for this project to float in the market and then explore the opportunities to be in the multiverse utilizing their storyline. Feel free to communicate, feel free to connect. For today's podcast, I think we came in the end. You need to understand the mindset of people like creators who are creating massive amount of happiness for others. A person who is coming from the creative and logical background, when they become entrepreneur, the way they look at the world is different than others. It's not about trading. I'm so sorry about this statement of mine. I mean, I'm sure that if you are a trader, you are a great personality, but trading and doing a creative business and writing those storyline and then eventually working with programmers, network engineers, database developers, the analysts, as well as the artists are different business altogether. I can vouch for it. I can vouch for it coming from the same.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. And then I personally had to, Bryan, you don't know, like I personally had to work on a lot because I dwell between the financial world as well as the creative world and the programming world, and work with various different kind of investors and HNIs and hold several different summits altogether. So like it's completely different kind of mindset when you do such kind of creative business. Thank you so much for coming in a short notice and sharing all the insights that you have done. Well, namaskar for today. For the audience, namaskar. The reason we say namaskar, it's a Sanskrit word. Namaste is Hindi, namaskar is Sanskrit. Why we do this? The real meaning is namah, te namah. Namah, your brain, te namah, another brain, comes together to do a good thing in the world. That's the reason, as a Bharatiya culture, we do namaskar like this. Stay safe, stay blessed, and keep in touch. Feel free to love us and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much.
Thank you.